Do you meet people who claim that they were conceived while listening to one of your songs?
All the time.
You do? You
All
seriously
the time.
do?
All the time.
You know, people just know him as the love man, but Barry was a gangbanger in L.A. You know, Barry was raw, man.
And then the day I went to jail is when it all came very clear to me that I had to change my life.
Ever heard of Barry White? That name used to strike fear in the streets, but now it's synonymous with love ballads and smooth vibes. In this video, we're diving into the wild ride of a guy whose life was as epic as his music. Barry White wasn't always the crooner we jam to today. Picture this, the dimly lit alleyways of LA, shadows hiding secrets, and danger lurking at every corner. Yep, young Barry was chasing his superstar dreams, right through those alleyways. How did a dude from a rough hood turn into the smooth-talking, love song legend we adore? And what's behind those velvety tones that melted hearts worldwide? Stick around, because we're peeling back the layers of Barry White's incredible journey. This is the untold story of the king of love songs. It's gonna be a ride.
I woke up one morning when I was 14 and
You woke up?
I spoke to my mother, and I scared both of us.
Early life Barry was born on September 12, 1944. In the gritty neighborhood of Watts, LA. This place was no joke back in the 50s and 60s. A real hotbed of poverty, racial tensions, and crime. Growing up in Watts was like navigating a jungle, with danger at every turn. And for young Barry, the pull of gang life was strong, like a siren calling out. Life wasn't easy for Barry's fam. His mom, Sadie Marie Carter, was doing her best to keep things together, but they were scraping by. The future looked pretty bleak, and opportunities were almost non-existent. Watts was like a hardcore boot camp, totally shaping who Barry turned out to be. Gangs ruled the streets. Names like the Beret and the Spiders were the talk of the town. It wasn't long before Barry got tangled up with these crews. He wasn't just some kid on the block. He was drawn into a life that seemed almost inevitable in Watts. But what pulled him into this dangerous world? Some people say Barry joined the gang scene because he craved that squad camaraderie, because being alone in Watts was a one-way ticket to Troubletown. Others think he was all about the power trip and control in a world that was pure chaos.
People just know him as the love man, but Barry was a gangbanger in L.A. You know, Barry was raw, man.
But Barry? He wasn't just some average dude in a gang. Nah, he was a total boss. His massive, intimidating presence made him the stuff of legend. People whispered about his wild escapades and epic showdowns with rival gangs. Barry was a force to be reckoned with, not just a member. He was the real deal, and he was smart, intimidatingly so. People couldn't stop gossiping about Barry's shady past with street gangs back in the day, especially around LA. The rumors were too juicy to ignore. Barry's run-ins with the law, his rough upbringing in East LA, and those gang-inspired looks he rocked early in his career only added fuel to the fire. Even in the 70s, his concerts were a magnet for gang members. That definitely didn't help squash the rumors. Barry's past was always a hot topic, and the whispers about his gang connections just kept growing louder. But even as he navigated the gang scene, there was always a spark of something more beneath the surface. Barry wasn't just about that life. There was a hidden depth that hinted at his future greatness. Juggling between the gang life and the pull of music had to have been crazy intense. One slip-up, and Barry could totally be wiped out or find his way to redemption. The streets of Watts had him in a chokehold, but the siren song of music was blasting louder and louder in his ears. Barry's game-changing moment came with a serious reality check. He figured out that sticking to his gang life was a one-way ticket to either jail or 6 feet under. That brutal wake-up call must have hit him like a ton of bricks, and he knew he had to make a radical move. So, he ditched the gang scene and threw himself headfirst into the world of music.
I made up my mind to make a change in my life when I was 16 years old.
Leaving behind the only life he knew was no walk in the park for Barry. It meant saying goodbye to friends who could flip and become enemies in a heartbeat. Some people in Watts were seriously side-eyeing his big switch-up. They were skeptical, maybe even downright salty. But Barry was ready to defy the haters and rewrite his story from scratch. With a new fire in his belly, Barry laser-focused on the music scene. He knew this new path would need some serious grind and dedication. So, he dived deep into his craft, soaking up all the rhythm and blues vibes from his hood. His deep, soulful voice became his secret weapon, a way to spill all his feels and life stories.
And when I said a self-made God, I meant just what I said. Barry White changed his life.
Career after Barry White got out of jail and ditched the gang life and jumped headfirst into the music scene in the early 60s. He kicked things off with the group The Upfronts, dropping his first track, Too Far to Turn Around, in 1960. From there, he bounced around various indie labels in LA, putting out singles with the Atlantics and the Majestics. Contrary to some rumors, a lot of rumors, Barry didn't produce Bob and Earl's 1963 hit Harlem Shuffle. That credit goes to Gene Page. Barry cleared that up in his 1999 autobiography. In the mid-60s, Barry's talents caught the eye of Bob Keane at Delphi Records, who brought him on board at Bronco Records as an A&R guy. Barry worked with artists like Viola Wills and the Bobby Fuller Four, flexing his skills as a songwriter, session musician, and arranger. He discovered the amazing Felice Taylor and helped her score big in the UK with I Feel Love Comin' On, co-written with his buddy Paul Politi. They also wrote hits like It May Be Winter Outside, but In My Heart It's Spring, and Under the Influence of Love. Bronco Records dropped one of Barry's first singles, All in the Run of a Day, in 1967, with Keane and Barry himself producing.
So this is my mother's song, All in the Run of a Day.
Barry even got into the bubblegum pop scene, writing Doin' the Banana Split for the Banana Splits TV show in 1968. Talk about versatile. So, in 1972, Barry White hit the jackpot when he discovered this awesome girl group called Love Unlimited. He'd been G them for 2 years, Motown style, until they finally scored a deal with Uni Records. Barry's bud Paul Politi hooked him up with Larry Nunez, a music industry big shot who helped finance their album. Once the record was done, Nunez took it to Russ Reagan, head honcho at Uni, which was owned by MCA, and bam! Love Unlimited's debut album, From a Girl's Point of View, We Give to You. It was just the start of Barry's trend of giving his albums super long names. Barry pulled triple duty as producer, writer, and arranger for their soulful ballad, Walkin' in the Rain with the One I Love, which shot up to number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 6 on the R&B chart in late 1972. It was his first million seller as a writer and producer. And get this, it even hit number 12 in the UK. You can even hear Barry's smooth voice in the mix, playing the love interest on the phone. But things got a bit rocky after Russ Reagan bounced from Uni to 20th Century Records. Barry's Uni deal went south, but since Love Unlimited was still tied up with Uni, he managed to switch both his production gig and the group over to 20th Century Records. They kept cranking out hits throughout the 70s, like I Belong to You and Under the Influence of Love Unlimited. But that wasn't enough for Barry. He wanted to shine solo, too. While working on demos for another singer, he ended up recording 3 tracks of himself singing and playing. Larry Nunez, the music biz dude, heard them and insisted Barry release them himself. After some back and forth, Barry finally agreed, and his first solo album, I've Got So Much to Give, dropped in '73. Hits like I'm Gonna Love You, just a little more baby shot to the top of the charts.
I couldn't help myself if I wanted to, 'cause I'm unloved.
And oh boy, did Barry keep slaying the game. Check out these hits. Never, Never Gonna Give You Up, Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Babe, You're the First, The Last, My Everything, and more. He was K-ing it in the UK too, earning nicknames like the Walrus of Love and Dr. Love, thanks to his smooth moves and deep voice. Besides slaying the music scene, Barry White dipped his toes into voiceover work for TV and movies too. You might have heard him as Brother Bear in the film Coonskin back in '75. But wait, there's more. In '95, he played a bus driver in a Prodigy commercial. And get this, he even voiced a rabbit in a Good Season salad dressing ad, singing a jam called You Can't Bottle Love. Plus, he flexed his vocal skills for car commercials like Oldsmobile and Jeep.
I have 7 children of my own. It was a warning to them. No one can escape what is getting ready to come upon us.
Personal life. Okay, so Barry's love life was pretty eventful. First up, he tied the knot with his childhood sweetheart, Mary, when he was just 19. But things didn't last, and they split in '69. Then in '74, Barry said I do again, this time with singer Glodian James. They even teamed up for a collab album in '81 called Barry and Glodian. But by '88, rumors swirled about their separation, although they stayed legally married until Barry's passing in 2003. Talk about complicated. Now let's talk kids. Barry had a big family, like really big. With Mary, he had at least 6 kids, including Daryl, who made headlines in 2017 with a lawsuit against Barry's estate. With Glodian, Barry added 4 more to the mix. Their daughter Shahara even worked as his personal assistant, while son Barry Jr. rocked out in the Love Unlimited Orchestra and managed his tours. But wait, there's more drama. Barry also had a daughter named Denise, born in '62 to another woman named Gertha Allen. She didn't find out Barry was her dad until '88 and later sued the estate when the cash flow stopped. Sure, Barry's life was a wild ride with all the drama, but his legacy lives on, stamped into the music scene forever. So, let's take a sec to remember not just the suave singer, but the dude who showed us how to hustle and never give up.